What is up, everybody? It is very late or early, depending on how you define that. Jeremy Finestone from Speaking of Strong Style is with me. We just got back from the New Japan show in San Jose at the Civic. I learned it is not the Civic Auditorium anymore. It's just the Civic. New Japan Battle in the Valley. We saw a great wrestling show. And after the show was over, Dave Meltzer walked up to both of us and said, that's the best show that's ever been in this building. And then I asked him, I said, well, how many shows do you think you've seen in this building? His first answer was hundreds, plural. Then he started doing the math. He's like, well, I think 20 shows a year for 4 years. That's 80. Yeah. Some WWE. He said at least 100. So he's been to 100 shows there, said this was the best show that he has ever seen in this building.
It was a pretty great show.
and yeah, so we got to see a lot of cool stuff. We also got to see some news because there was some connective tissue between this show and the upcoming show in Chicago in April. So I saw some folks talking about, wow, they're actually setting up some stuff for the next show. And I'm like, awesome, because if I could have a New Japan show that did shows in the US and they set up like stuff to get you excited for the next one and they happen more regularly, I might not need any other wrestling to watch. That is not the case, but this was I think this was a really cool attempt, because what it does is now you're excited for 3 months down the road. It is like the same pay-per-view cycle as Tony Khan, I guess at least before this last year. So yeah, like 3 cycles, 3 months for a pay-per-view cycle. Though you and I saw this show live, and we heard from people in our Discord who were just talking about the production issues that were kind of just almost infuriating, to the point of, it's kind of ruining this really good wrestling show, and maybe even taking things down a notch because of how frustrating some of that stuff is. Announcers too hot, not able to level out both of the announcers, the audio on the entrance music being bad. So unfortunately, this is kind of the what happens when the U.S. soil is not your main market. You run the San Jose Civic, and I was on this last year in that, because you remember the show started late because they couldn't get the pay-per-view feed going. Right. And I'm just like, can we run a building that was not built in 1936? Like, is that possible?
It's not just the building, though. It's all their shows. Whenever they do a domestic show, there's off-ness with the audio feed, the lighting, when you switch angles from the camera, doesn't look right. There are issues with it that they promised was going to be fixed with New Japan World doing the upgrading, and it hasn't quite happened that way. And so that's kind of the cross and the burden that you have to live with when it comes to these New Japan shows. And it takes the big deal aspect away from it when it looks so, or you get a reflection of low budgetness when they're watching the feedback that you're getting.
Yes, there is a built-in excuse for why you mentioned the low budget, and they cannot invest a ton of money in these shows like you would a AEW's product or whatever. Like it's just a different. The bank account difference is too much. But let's go through some of the news that came out of this show first, and then we'll kind of go match by match. We're not going to, it is late. And for those of you who are watching live, appreciate it. Our brother Brian is checking us out. He was so good with getting the tickets. He was on it. He's like, all right, guys, New Japan is coming. Who's in? I got the tickets. Shoot me a Venmo, and we're good. So we've had these tickets forever. So the news, I would say the maybe the biggest piece of news is after Jon Moxley won his match against Shingo, which was a bloodbath and a nutty match. Not my cup of tea usually, but I saw how that live crowd reacted to everything, including the crazy near falls, where I was kind of making fun of the near falls because Shingo hit this dude with a chain and his lariat, and Moxley kicked out. And I was like, well, how can you lose a match if you kick out of the chain? Imagine Nikita Koloff hitting someone with the chain. That was lights out for about 5 minutes, right? So, but yeah, the crowd was going nutty for this match. And
I wasn't totally into the way it ended just because it felt so like it didn't escalate to the level of everything else in the match. Moxley hit him with a Death Rider onto an exposed chair, like an open face chair, and that was it. And it just kind of felt like that's what put him
after
away.
all the stuff,
Right.
that was it.
That's what put him away. Maybe it was just like the power bar was worn down too much.
Yeah. Scott E. Wrestling, the king of no sleep, says for us to go to bed.
He should talk.
Yeah. Scott is just like he's probably just got his second wind. He's ready to watch whatever else is going on. And he's on the East Coast too. But after the match, Moxley cut a promo, started the promo, and we couldn't hear him. And the crowd booed, and the crowd assumed this was just more janky New Japan production. And Moxley goes, nope, I forgot to hit the button. That one was on me. So he cuts the promo and says he only wants one thing, and that is Tetsuya Naito. Now, here's the thing about that, which is Tetsuya Naito has some defenses to happen before he could get to Chicago, which is where they said the match was going to happen. So they put it on the marquee, Moxley versus Naito, but they did not put it for the New Japan title, at least on the marquee. Moxley did not say that he wanted the belt. He didn't even do the pantomiming the belt around his waist. He just said he wanted Tetsuya Naito. So that match is happening. New Japan does not promote title matches when there are other title defenses still needing to happen. We have the match
coming up.
We have the match with Sonata. There's going to be a New Japan Cup winner.
Potentially an anniversary match against Desperado if he is still the champion. And then Sakura Genesis is going to have the New Japan Cup winner versus Naito. So there are 2, maybe 3 matches. And like I said, they didn't specifically say it was for a title, but we're getting Naito versus Moxley, whether it's for a title or not.
More than likely going to be for a title.
Could be,
one would think.
There has been a lot of talk in the New Japan world that the goal for Naito is for him to have a long, sustained title reign to really seal his legacy. It would be surprising if he lost the title before then, but not completely unexpected just because of the way New Japan is going right now and throwing a lot of unpredictability to the wall. But I'm kind of leaning towards it being a title match in the Windy City. The way that they're building this up, there's no reason to downplay how big this match can be to get tickets sold.
And with this match happening, the idea of could Jon Moxley win the IWGP Championship? The relationship with AEW is there. There is going to be another Forbidden Door. So if you wanted to do a title switch, you could switch the belt back. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I'm not even, I don't even want to think that far in advance. I know these companies have 2 distinct differences in strategy in business. But the fact that there is a relationship to me says that there is a chance that they could do this. And I think it'd be great. But it has to make fiscal sense for both companies as well. So that is the kind of the little bit of question mark when it comes to this. Because I think, if you are a hardcore AEW fan who also understands New Japan, who may have watched Wrestle Kingdom, it is a really big deal to see somebody from AEW television who is not under contract to that company as their main home win that title. It is, what was Jon Moxley's post WWE run? Oh, it was this amazing run in New Japan where he just proved himself to a lot of the naysayers who were like, he's just an ex-WWE guy. Like, he can't hang. And so that was a proving ground for him. So it would be a nice little continuation to that story for him. But at the same time, there's so many things that have to happen correctly, and deals that have to be struck, and partnerships, and two companies working together. So, not saying it can't happen, but we'll sort of wait and see, and we'll have to figure out where they are around April.
You're absolutely right about you can do the cooperation. There is a sense that I've had between this New Japan and AEW relationship where it's been a lot of AEW and not quite so much a return on investment for New Japan. But I've been seeing since June of last year with the Dominion match where the six-man of the Blackpool Combat Club came over. And then going into Wrestle Kingdom, and now that we have here, we had some unexpected faces from AEW show up. And so now that we have that, maybe we're going to start seeing the AEW product going into New Japan a little bit more with some names that we did not expect that aren't Jon Moxley that we'll get to at some point.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
But that's what's most interesting to me is that the heavy lean of the AEW talent that just doesn't have room to breathe over there might have an opportunity to move over to New Japan. And some of the names are really interesting.
Just before we get to that initial name, which was the biggest surprise of the night, I thought, I just want to shout out the crew that we were with. Miguel Rubio is hanging out, watching us live as well. And, we got to hang out for your birthday last weekend. So it's like back to back where we're hanging out with the crew back to back weeks. So we got to see our pals, the Rubio brothers. John LaRocca was there. Brian was there. We even saw Christopher Garcia, who I very much enjoy when I get to see him around town.
Got fly by for Baby Huey.
Baby Huey was there. You can always spot Baby Huey. Baby Huey is if he's in the crowd, and you kind of do just look through. We can always spot him at WWE shows when we're there as well. So Baby Huey was there. Dave was there, and his significant other Mita was there, as well as what?
Most of his family wanted to be there.
Yeah, his son Cody was there, and Trinity, Cody's longtime partner, was there as well. And then we saw a Roy Lucier, who is like one of the most passionate wrestling fans you'll ever see, and he was there. Of course, he had to pick Dave's brain, and I'm sure I'm missing folks that we recognize that were hanging out.
Was he the one wearing the fantastic United Empire sweater?
You know what? I don't know, but it was right when I got there. That's who Dave was talking to.
Yeah, that green and gold sweater was a United Empire sweater. I'm like, you're rocking that sweater hard.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, it's just so fun when your city hosts something, and all of the people who as wrestling fans, they go and they represent, and you get to hang out. It's like the most fun way to watch a show, I think, is that just makes it even better.
This was a really enjoyable night, both socially and for just watching wrestling. Just a great night.
All right, so the surprise of the night. This happened after the match, and I want to find the card.
It was a six-man match.
Six-man, yeah. Jacob Fatu, Fred Rosser, and Shota Umino beat Team Filthy. And at the end of this match, Shota Umino won the match for his team. And he gets jumped by a guy who is unrecognizable. I don't know if he's wearing
a luchador mask.
It was a luchador.
I thought it was like Bushi or something. The way that the way the mask was set up, and it was not Bushi.
Unmasks, and it's a young man with longish curly hair and a frazzled beard. And we look a little closer. And I look at John LaRocca and I go, Jungle Boy. And he's like, huh? Jungle Boy. And so it was Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy jumped Shota Umino. He got in the ring. He what was the thing that he put on his arm?
Scapegoat.
He put a little armband that said Scapegoat on it. And he goes into his jacket. He takes out what all I saw was giant AEW letters on it. So it could have just been letterhead, but I think we were to assume that it was a contract of some sort. And I don't know about where other people work, but any contract I've ever signed about employment was like many pages long, not one page. Maybe he
It's a
just
top
grabbed,
sheet, Garrett.
yeah, maybe he just grabbed the last page with his signature on it, but he tore up his AEW contract. So there's something going on with his 2024 as related to how he left AEW in 2023 with CM Punk screaming and yelling at him like a crazy man. And so we'll see what happens with Jungle Boy. I think you even said, what if he was coming in for the New Japan Cup, which I thought would be tremendous. Like, that would be absolutely fantastic.
I mean, the way that this was laid out seems to be something that's going to be playing out on New Japan programming. Now, if that means that he is going to come to Japan, do a match or two, great. But there's got to be something between now and Chicago, much like other things have to happen with all these other shows. Are we going to get this story played out on AEW? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it'll be on AEW, or do you think this is going to play out somehow in New Japan?
So if I am trying to make this thing make sense, now, the him tearing up the contract is directly feeding into what they like to do, which is, they like to swerve their smart fans into thinking, because the AEW fan base, one thing about them is they want to believe that whatever is going on is going to be good. So sometimes they even play into it a little bit more than some smart fans, which just because they just want it to be cool or whatever. And so the fact that he tore up that contract tells me that they probably want to establish that he is not going to be back in AEW in the very near future. Maybe he even does that Windy City show as well, because I think that show's is in Chicago, and that is in the all in, all out building,
the Wintrust Arena.
So there's a story in of itself there, being that's Punk's place. So I would keep him away from AEW television. You could actually, you could maybe show it, but I think even showing it, you're basically saying like, yeah, this is storyline, and maybe that's what they want.
You're gaming
yeah, and maybe that's what they want. Maybe they're fine with that. And I think, again, like I said, I think the fans will play along, and the fans will be excited because they're like, oh, something interesting with Jungle Boy, and they're trying. But I did see some people go, wait, is he gone? I was like, come on, guys.
That's exactly like the fact that people believe that he is really like torn up the contract and he's now in New Japan just says to me that there is a compelling factor to this, that people are already invested in. Like, okay, we weren't expecting any of this. So that's a successful point number one. Point number two is you have completely forgotten about CM Punk. You have completely forgotten about all these other things. You're immediately like, okay, the next chapter with Jack Perry is New Japan. This is a pivot left, a hard pivot left from the direction that he was set on before. Okay, I'm interested. He's not the devil. He's not anything going on and anything going on in AEW. This feels fresh, and this feels like a great opportunity for him, both professionally and creatively. And so I am optimistic about the whole thing.
Our friend Denise says that she was very happy that the Jungle Boy returned. She was a little worried about old Jack.
I heard from our friend Miguel that he felt that this was the perfect show for his wife to have attended. She would have liked every match on the card.
It was good. It was really good. So we'll have to wait and see what they do. I as a fan of storylines like this, to kind of do everything that you can. Not that they're going to fool me, but just so that I see they're doing their due diligence to make it, to make it seem as realistic as possible. I would love to not even have them talk about him at all. They have a lot of people that they need to get over. And if all of this stuff happens through social media or through New Japan Pro Wrestling, I'm totally fine with that. It's a little edgier that way. It's less, Excalibur, screaming about something. I'm fine with it. Like let's let the New Japan folks tell this story for a little while until he's ready to go back.
I will tell you this. That Forbidden Door match between Jack Perry and Sonata was such a mismatch creatively and stylistically. He had no business being in that title match, even for the angle that they were doing on AEW at the time. But setting Jack Perry up with Shota Umino is a fantastic pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I agree.
those two are in very similar places in their careers on the come up and with the reception, the relationship with the fans, and creating dual relationships, both Shota and AEW further, and Jack Perry and New Japan, I think is going to do wonders for them both. And it's a great starting point. I was just, when they were put together and they did that angle, I was like, never would have thought of it, but wow, no, I am here for it.
And they're both young, handsome wrestlers. That is good for a younger fan base to see these two dudes who are still early in their career. They're very athletic. I think it just makes so much sense. So I'm for it.
I was just like, again, never would have thought of it. And once they did, I'm like, it made so much sense. And I'm glad it's more than just a Forbidden Door match where they're going to meet once. And this feels like something that they'll draw out here, there, and everywhere. And yeah, Shota's got stuff going on with the Ren, and then there's going to be the Cup. But if Jack Perry's in the Cup, if some of these other guys that showed up today are in the Cup, all of a sudden we have a very interesting New Japan Cup and a lineup of matches that we could start, wrapping our minds around it, like, wow, all of these are possible.
Mustafa Ali had a video played, and he wants Takahashi, he wants Hiromu, and that is also going to happen in Chicago. Were you surprised to hear the Ali chants? The people were so fired up to see him. I don't know if it was just the fact that it was a surprise, it caught them off guard, or if they really believe in this dude.
They were surprised. I wasn't sure what to make of it at first because, we got a couple of guys that have left WWE or no longer with WWE, however you want to phrase it, and are jumping through all these promotions and are just checking off the boxes. Mustafa Ali is one of them. Nick Emmett is another one. He's got a match in New Japan coming up. And so you don't know at this point, with the unpredictability of anything, it feels like all bets are off. And there aren't a whole lot of events coming up in which they can make a whole lot of reveals in New Japan. So I think we've kind of got the table set for now. With Mustafa Ali, I'm really excited. I'm also incredibly excited for the fresh matches for Hiromu because he has been wrestling the same guys or guys at a certain level for a very long time. And I think Mustafa Ali is an incredibly underrated wrestler. So the fact that he's coming in here and they're putting him in his hometown of Chicago against Hiromu Takahashi in a special singles match is a huge vote of confidence, and I think totally
earned. What was the idea behind the video? It was like there was like a presidential kind of thing.
He wants to win the approval of the fans and the voters, and he's campaigning because it's a campaign year of 2024.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another. This isn't really as newsworthy from a what happened perspective, but Julia, who we had never seen live before, I've only seen clips of her. I've never seen a full match of hers. And she faced Trish Adora, and I watched Trish Adora, and we saw this with Queen Amanita as well. They're like, man, how come they're not in AEW? Like, they're just as good or better than a lot of the women in AEW right now. And Julia, I'm not sure if I could, I'd probably have to watch more matches. I think I was way more impressed with her look, her composure, the way she stands out. Like, there are things about her that scream star.
The poise,
the character, all of those things. She has such a unique look. So I think, she stands out. You see her and you go, okay, I get it. And the wrestling was good. I don't know if they had the best chemistry together. Like there's a couple times where, because Trish Adora, she throws her right hand like a pitcher would throw a fastball. So she picks up her left foot and she leans her left foot, and then she brings her right hand sort of like over the top, like someone, like a pitcher throwing a fastball. And the timing with
Oh
Julia
yeah,
was
I know what you're
off.
talking about. It was
She
like
would duck too early,
it
and
was
then the
like a
punch
beat
would
too
come.
slow. Yes.
And well, the
Yeah.
punch would come, and because Julia had already moved out of the way, Trish would have to shorten the punch so that she didn't hit her in the face. And so that was off a couple different times. And there was a couple
I
things, but
saw
it
it, but
didn't.
you explained it well enough that I wasn't sure what had happened, but I just
Yeah.
knew that like the coordination was off, the timing was off.
But you can just sense that Julia is special. So yeah, that was really cool. And we were talking about this after the show was over, which is that San Jose. And I guess if you were going to go to a New Japan Strong show, a New Japan
You mean
America
Tokyo
show,
Dome West?
right? But you have to you are a more of a hardcore fan. The rant. We're gonna go, or I think Raw is gonna be here in like a month or a little bit over a
Yeah,
month.
like the 26th or whatever,
Yeah,
February.
and so I'll be at that show, and there are a lot of people who are going to be in that building. They're probably going to be 10,000 people in that building,
That's the
and
road to WrestleMania. It's going to be packed.
and I would say 75% of those fans probably didn't even know that there was a show in San Jose. Like it's just a different audience, right? So San Jose as a hardcore wrestling fan base for the 2,000 people who were there or whatever, like they knew who she was, or at least knew that enough to know that they should be interested in who she was. So I was happy at the reception that she got. It kind of made me feel good about the fans that we were with who knew her. So that was cool. And yeah, I just want to see more. Like that's what I came out going like, I want to see more. I also want to see more of Trisha
Adora?
as well. Yeah. I thought she was so different. She's really tall, she's aggressive, she's vocal. I thought she stood out really well.
Aminata, Trisha Adora, and Athena are all women that should be all over the AEW women's division, and they're not. And I hope in 2024 that changes because I'm not sure what room there is for Trisha Adora on the New Japan roster besides these every 3 months.
Yeah.
The New Japan show. So hopefully there's a pivot point. Maybe they can do some type of Continental Classic for the women, and that way they can pivot some of these New Japan women and maybe make some more matches with the AEW women over there in New Japan. That might be an idea that they could do. As for Julia, she's great. I really want to see that match between her and Stephanie Vaquer that's going to happen after Vaquer won her pre-show match against Viva Fan. Also a really good match. You should make your way out to see that on YouTube. That might be Julia's last match before she goes off to other pastures up north or not in Japan.
So I guess the other thing, unless I missed something, and let me know if I have, but I would say the other thing surrounding this show is just the fact that Ospreay's on his way out as far as
We
being
got Riddle. We got Riddle in the Cobb match.
Yeah, that was really good. That was up to that point. That was the best match that had been on the card, and then it was perfect.
Strong reaction for everybody. Everybody was happy to the bro chant were loud but not overwhelming. Everyone seemed to be pretty much right that Jeff Cobb was the opponent, and then big props to Bad Dude Tito. He really showed out tonight.
Yeah,
with an opportunity against the other guys.
He's got something.
He does. He really does. So yeah, just great match that tag team match. Sorry, take it back to you.
No, great. No, it's a good point because we were wondering about the reception for Riddle because he has the bro chant. I think the fans were very preoccupied with the bro chant. it overrode any. We didn't really hear any boos for him, so it overrode any of that. There were some people who probably were not really reacting too much, but
Mhm.
there was enough there with the bro chants, and he was great. I thought, the thing about Matt Riddle, he was so awesome on the indie scene before he went to WWE. And so he would have all these matches, and he's Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. and him and Jeff Cobb as a tag team. So he was working with like high level guys before he even made it to WWE. So he just fell right back in. And when you're working with Zack Sabre Jr., who he's probably had, 10 matches or 20 matches against already on the indies.
In his
Uh,
catch point days.
yeah, it's just he just fell right back into everything. Like he felt a little bit like a former WWE guy, but I thought because I've seen him on the indies a lot and in person a lot, I was just like, oh yeah, he just fell right back into what he was before he went to WWE.
He, of all the guys that have made their reappearances from WWE from the last 3 months, I think he has the most opportunity to shake the clown persona that they were portraying him as on the show, and to be a bit more of a, maybe have a little bit of a comedy, but a little more serious of a shooter with a little bit of charisma, rather than like, gotta play up, I'm a goofball stoner idiot, ha ha ha.
Yeah,
And
and stay
so,
out of trouble too. Like that's
yes,
the big thing.
please, just let what you do in the ring be reflective of how people respond to what you do. Is my advice to Matt Riddle. After that, it's like, he's got plenty of opportunities. If this is what we're gonna get out of Matt Riddle going forward for however long he's going to be in New Japan, I am totally okay with it. This was a fantastic match, and he fit right in.
And I think, he's got this match coming up with Tanahashi, so we'll see how invested they are in him based
And
on
just like Jack
the
Perry,
outcome.
he could be in the New Japan Cup too. It's
I think
like,
he's supposed to be, isn't he?
he might be. I haven't heard for sure. I haven't heard anything official anywhere other than just rumors here and there. So I'm operating that until I see that thing that he is for sure in there. I'm not living on anything for sure.
Yeah, and then the only thing I'll add about the Osprey promo is I thought it was excellent. The passion.
Mhm.
He uh, sometimes I still find it a little hard to understand everything that he's saying, but he has turned into a really good promo, and he ended the night very well, I thought, as far as the New Japan. I was so young and irresponsible, and they let me kind of grow into who I am today. And he talked about growing up and issues with his I guess education and learning. Like he used the word autism, and he used the word actually autistic. And I turned to you and I said, "Did you hear that?" And then I was like, "Or did he say artistic?" But I was reading in the Discord that he's brought up that maybe he had some undiagnosed autism in his when he was younger.
And
However,
yeah.
my wife, her job is to diagnose special needs children for their
Mhm.
educational purposes. So I mean, I don't know. Obviously, he may have had some stuff going on, or still does. I don't. That doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not like you escape
That
it.
spectrum is wide and varied, and there's no like single box that you can just put everybody who has those who's diagnosed with it in some way, shape, or form. It's not linear. It's not, two people have the same issue with it. So he could have very light issues on the spectrum and still be able to operate at a completely high functioning level that no one else could possibly do. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna get through. We'll go through the matches pretty quickly,
Yeah.
but before that, just want to shout out on. So it's already Sunday for everybody listening to this or watching this.
Thank you,
The, pa-
by the way.
the Power Bombshells are doing show number 100 at 10 a.m., 1 p.m. Eastern. So that is show 100 for Mel and Sam. So congrats on there. I think I'm going to try and do a run-in at some point.
And am I. Maybe time.
That, look for that. The show is already up on the YouTube. You can set your notification. I'm doing a show Tuesday night. It is we like to have a history show on the network. And this year's history show is not myself and John the Rocca. I'm actually inviting my buddy Brandon Draven on, and we are tackling the year of 1989. Now, the reason why we chose that is because Dave Meltzer's 1989 observers are actually out in book form. So I had never had access to these observers before, and they're out there on Amazon. So if you want to follow along with 1989, we will be doing that. We'll be doing a monthly show. So we will tackle January. That will also be on the podcast feed as a bonus show. So if you miss the live YouTube show, it will be in podcast form. And then you and Stephen Conway will come back Thursday, and you'll have more stuff about Battle in the Valley because he'll have watched the TV version.
Yes, sir. We're gonna do the good old fashioned live recap versus the televised recap. Maybe we'll bring somebody on that was also at the show, have some feedback from them. I'm gonna try and work that out. Who knows? We're gonna see what we can pull off with the good old preview of all things New Japan. 90 minutes, 5:30 Eastern, Thursday.
All right, tell me about these pre-show matches. I did not get there until right before the show started.
Oh no, I will say the first match you did not miss much. It was Matt Vandegrift versus Goldie. It went about 6 minutes. It was basically an NXT match. A couple of guys from the LA dojo learning their craft. Sometimes taking a little bit extra time on these moves that if you were a little more experienced, it would be a little more crisper. Take a little more time. Would have gone 5 minutes and 30 seconds instead of 6 minutes and 10, that kind of thing. It was an all right match. But the real one would have been the Stephanie McCurr versus Viva Van match, which went about 10 minutes, ended about 5 minutes before the main show. This was a hard-hitting women's match. I would argue that it should have been on the main show. Mm-hmm. Stephanie McCurr needs to have more eyes on her. She is incredibly talented. I've heard a lot of good things about Viva Van, and this was my first time watching her, and she held her own. It was a very CMLL style lucha match. A lot of rope work, a lot of hard hitting mat work as well. And I would recommend it. You can watch it free on Triller or on YouTube. This match you do not need to pay to watch.
All right, so the show opened. Jacob Fatu, Fred Rosser, Shota Umino versus Team Filthy, Tom Lawler, Jorel Nelson, Royce Isaac. So awesome to see Tom. I always love seeing Tom. He's such a nice dude. And so why don't you describe, because the thing that you're bringing to the table is New Japan is your beat. So you know sure. all the ins and outs of what's going on. I know at the end of this match, there was a special slap, handshake, or whatever happened. And so you can explain what happened after Shota Umino won the match.
Oh, the slap, right. I was like, what's oh, yes. Okay, so Team Filthy lost to Rosser, Jacob Fatu, and Shota Umino. Fred Rosser is the heart and soul of the LA dojo right now. Jacob Fatu is of MLW and APW, making his debut here in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then we have our own favorite Shota Umino, son of Red Shoes, New Japan's favorite son. And they defeated Jorel Nelson, Royce Isaac, and Filthy Tom Lawler. West Coast Wrecking Crew started to have frayed relationships with Tom Lawler, and it seems like they are at wit's end with each other, and that could be something that we see here in Chicago. But after the match was over, the 2 or 3 year feud between Tom Lawler and Fred Rosser over the strong title, over various different issues, seemed to come to an end when Rosser offered his hand in a shake. Jorel Nelson and Royce Isaac did not want Filthy to shake that hand. He pushed them out of the way. He slapped Fred immediately in the face. Fred slapped him right back. They shook hands, and now they're friends. Maybe they'll be a
Wow.
tag team against West Coast Wrecking Crew.
Wow. You also saw Red Shoes this weekend.
I did. Long story, I ended up at the New Japan Hotel, and I had to drop something off to somebody, and he was in the lobby. And Garrett, my life is complete because when Red Shoes is not in the ring, he is walking around in red socks and red slippers.
He's living the
And I'm
gimmick.
like, absolutely live the gimmick. You have owned it. I believe in you even more so than I did before.
All right. Mascara Dorada, Volador Jr. beat Rocky Romero and Soberano Jr. So this was a CMLL match on a New Japan show.
Sure.
What were your thoughts on this one?
It was a lot of fun. This is basically getting you ready for Fantastica Mania, which is going to have English commentary for the first time in February. A lot of these guys are going to be on New Japan World for those matches, which is going to be 5 or 6 shows over the course of a week right before the New Japan Cup. If you enjoyed this CMLL level main event, then you need to check out the Fantastica Mania stuff because that's basically going to be all those matches all the time for about a week. Good match.
David Finlay defeated TJP Boo in a I don't even know how long this match was, but
13 minutes and 7 seconds.
TJP got a lot of offense. TJP is a good wrestler. I do not root for TJP. I do not like TJP. But this was there are a lot of people who don't like the David Finlay character either. So I think this was a little bit of a tougher watch for some folks, but Dave Finlay won the match, and he moves on as the American in New Japan who is getting pushed very hard.
Let's see if we can do this in a minute or less, Garrett. At New Year Dash, after Wrestle Kingdom, TJP's partner Akira was assaulted by the rest of Bullet Club, David Finlay's group, the War Dogs. He was beaten brutal and senseless just before Will Ospreay volunteered him for a 5-on-5 cage match on February 11th. TJP took this match because Akira freaked out and went home, and he said, I'm taking this match and I'm going to show David Finlay a lesson. Well, TJP is a junior heavyweight, and David Finlay is the global heavyweight champion. And you can go a little while as a junior heavyweight versus a heavyweight, but eventually the heavyweight is going to beat your ass.
Yeah.
Eventually, David Finlay beat his ass.
I called him an American. He is technically a German-born Irish American, is how he is described, but he is the
I consider him, what, a 4th-generation pro wrestler? Is he 4th or 3rd?
Good question. I don't know. I don't even know.
He's 4th.
Okay, so then the next match was the your best friends, the Gorillas
friends
of Destiny.
Strong Style, Gorillas of Destiny, Leo and Fantasmo.
When you guys did that interview, how long were they on, by the way?
30 minutes.
Wow.
I clocked it and I said, okay, we hit 30 minutes. I'm letting them go. That was it. I didn't know. I would just ask them questions until we were done.
Now, this match was for the Strong Open Weight Tag Team Championship.
Mm-hmm.
They defeated the Bullet Club War Dogs, Clark Connors and Alex Coughlin. Both Clark Connors, from the last time I saw him live, he is a little bit bigger. But Alex Coughlin, like, he's got traps on top of traps, and these guys are in fantastic shape, but not in fantastic shape enough because they lost to they lost to your best friends here.
It seemed to be a match that was kind of predetermined because you had Alex Coughlin and Gabe Kidd as a tag team, and you have Clark Connors and Drill and Maloney as a tag team. So when you partner with the other two and think that they're going to win the pair of tag titles, it doesn't quite make sense. You also got Kenta and Chase Owens going after one of the titles in Japan. So this was a great spotlight match. El Phantasmo and Hikuleo, frankly speaking, are a lot of fun to watch as a pair, and they have a great charisma and chemistry with each other. And it was not a group that or a pairing that a lot of people thought, oh, that's really going to have some legs, but having a great time with it, and just need to keep the train moving on this one.
So I want to shout out the great Fowler who has joined the chat. Check out Jay's story at thegreatfowler.com if you wish. But shout out to Jay. Also, Matt B. Matt B is in the chat
Hi,
as
Matt.
well.
Hi,
Matt
Jay.
B said that Phantasmo was amazing when he saw him live years ago, so he's happy to see his success. There are some folks who do not like him for some reason. I don't know if it's because of just the
Young Buck style
style,
flippy shit.
yeah, the style, and when he was a heel, obviously he was really good at his job. So I think some of that is also there as well. But the times that I've seen him, I sort of get why the folks who don't like him, but I also think he's pretty darn good as well. So
He was working overtime with the fans during the World Tag League on all those shows that no one was watching. The amount of work that he was doing to get those crowds riled up and excited for the show, and not just but like creative, like just getting him going with like the energy in the ring. Really turned around that face dynamic for him. Like he just took it to a new level.
So we mentioned Julian Trishadora.
Mm-hmm.
That was for the Strong Women's Championship, and more than likely, that is going to lead to Julia and Stephanie Vicaire.
It was confirmed online.
Was it
today, after the match that would be the next match?
Did they say when they're going to do it?
No, okay. But she is next in line for the title against Julia.
And the match, we kind of talked about this as well. Chosen Bros against TMDK. Up to this point, I think this was the best match on the show. Just a fantastic, fun tag team match. It's not like there were any stakes involved here. There were no titles involved. It was literally Matt Riddle is in New Japan and Jeff Cobb and Bad Dude Tito. I was asking, I was like, are these guys have beef? Like, what's going on? Because it was like, they were fired up to face each other. Right when Cobb comes in the ring, he was asking Bad Dude Tito, what how much do you bench press? Like he's like doing, like he's like pantomiming like these workout lifts and stuff, which was I thought was pretty funny.
You can go to Cage Match and you can type in Jeff Cobb and Bad Dude Tito, and there are a handful of matches out there from New Japan that they've been in with each other. Find them and watch them because it's more of the same of what you saw here. But I will say that Bad Dude Tito has elevated himself another level from the last time I saw him.
He was awesome.
He's always been great. He's been fantastic for a long time, but he looked unbelievable tonight. Just fantastic.
All right, which puppy is this here?
This is Cole. He wants to go to bed, and he does not understand that it's not happening quite yet.
All right, Cole. We'll be done in 5 minutes, Cole. Just
5 minutes,
just
buddy. 5 minutes. You're gonna hang out with me right here, okay?
Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd. We haven't talked about this match. These guys.
How about the reaction for Eddie Kingston?
Yeah, I had tweeted out the top reactions just to the opening intro video, and I forgot to put Eddie in there, but the crowd was in love with Eddie. They were so fired up, though there was a heckler behind us who did not like Eddie, so he was trying to have like conflicting chants about Eddie and how much Eddie sucks in wrestling. But this match was craziness. Now, I will say, John The Rock and I were kind of joking about this on the Fight Game podcast.
Yes, you were.
About the style of the match, and how many chops and then Eddie's going to pull his, pull his singlet down and expose his chest. And I could have done without some of that. I think they went a little overboard with it. Like, I much prefer the way that Ospreay and Okada kind of did that in their match, where it's the toughness, like who's tougher. I don't like starting the match like that. Just, who can take the most chops. It seems really silly if the idea is to win this match and, you get into that stuff without anything leading up to it. And they went back to it several times. Gabe Kidd is very vocal. He's very his facial expressions. He's very convincing as a guy who's always angry and always pissed off.
He's very emotive. He's He's very much able to convey like he's an angry son of a bitch.
Yeah, and this show was really built to, showcase these dudes as like heels, right? As you know, they were the bad guys of this show. So the match ends up in a was it a double count out or something?
Yes, it was a 20 count out. Eddie was going to jump back into the ring, and Gabe talked shit to him, and then he came back to beat him up some more, and the ref counted to 20. Most of the times when this happens, the audience doesn't like it.
Boos, yeah.
They didn't have a problem with it at this show. Like, they were just like, you know what? We've had a ton of cool shit. This is okay. And I think inherently, after seeing everything announced already for Windy City up to that point with Hiromu and reading between the lines on a couple of these other matches, I think a lot of people came to the conclusion that you were going to get Eddie versus Gabe Kidd in Chicago as well in a no DQ match. And you're just like, yeah, okay, I could do this one more time. They did something last year with Kenta and Fred Rosser. They had a disqualification at the San Jose show, and then followed up with the next match, and it was a no disqualification. So it's kind of their blueprint. It's just kind of dragging the story out so Eddie doesn't have to drop the belt anytime soon before next year's Continental Classic. Just fine. Gabe is a great opponent for Eddie Kingston. Those two, they were fantastic. It was just a lot of fun while it was happening.
Yeah, no, it worked for exactly what they were looking for. However, if you are somebody who watches wrestling and goes, well, I just saw a bunch of crazy stuff, and then the next match is even more crazy stuff, I don't think it hurt here, though. Having the count out and then leading into what is a no DQ match, thematically, I could see somebody thinking like, maybe they should have split these matches up a little bit. But Moxley and Shingo was ridiculous, and it was nuts, and it was blood, and it was the black or green mist or whatever, and it was
advertised
taking moves through tables. It was made in Japan, where we're thinking, okay, that the match is over. Nope, we got surprised. Mox went through his series of moves, and then Shingo kicked out of that. So fans were kind of going crazy to that. And then, like you said, you got the pinfall, which was probably maybe slightly after the peak of the match, but hey, they were going for it. And then you had the Mox promo.
Was Shingo dressed as Funk or Dusty, or who was he?
Yeah, he had the white T-shirt with the cutoff sleeves, and he had the blue jeans, and then he had the knee pads over the blue jeans, which is always my favorite when it comes to these matches. John LaRocca said, yeah, Bunkhouse Stampede Dusty. I don't think he had cowboy boots on, though. That would have been the only thing.
Yeah, it reminded me of Terry Funk, and I wasn't sure if it was more Funk or Dusty. The thing about this match is if the card ended right after the Jon Moxley match, and we had gotten everything up to this point, and we had all gone home, this still would have been an amazing, amazing card. But it wasn't over.
Yes. Now, depending on what you thought, some of it is going to be style of wrestling that you like most. I think some people will think that the Moxley and Shingo match was better. I do think that, I don't know if it would be 50-50. Maybe some will lean a little bit more towards the main event just because of who was in the main event. But you had Okada, you had Will, and they started out, I think, a little bit slower than some people had anticipated. But I think the reason that they did is because, again, how can you follow the craziness that you saw before? Well, let's get it back in the ring. Let's kind of, slow things down a little bit, because we have to build up to something again, and we cannot get those fans immediately right back into something, because we're going to wear them out. We're going 30 minutes or however long this match went. And I just thought you know, because we have the immediate comparison of Danielson and Okada. And my buddy Big D, we were talking about this in Discord. And by, you know, I don't know, 3/4 of the match, he was like, "Oh, this show's this show, especially the two main events, was even a better show than Wrestle Kingdom." And that was his thought before the main event was even over. And I was like, "Well, I kind of really like that Danielson Okada match." And he's like, "No, this match is better." And I was like, "Well, we'll see." We were only 3/4 of the way through. By the end of the match, I did agree with him. I thought this was slightly better than Danielson Okada. But that is just shows you how crazy this is, because you just called it Wrestle Kingdom West, or whatever you called it
Tokyo
earlier.
Dome West.
Tokyo Dome West. Like you know,
I joke, but I beat it when I say it.
you can compare the two shows. The Tokyo Dome show was what, 10 days ago or whatever? Like
it was 10 days ago. Bryan Danielson and Okada went 23 minutes, right?
Yes.
Sonata and Naito went 25 minutes. Jon Moxley and Shingo Takagi went 26 minutes, and Okada and Danielson went 28. We got longer matches, potentially better matches than we got on Wrestle Kingdom.
Okada finally won with the Rainmaker, but there was some pretty impressive stuff. Okada went for a Rainmaker, which Will turned into a Spanish Fly. They each did each other's moves, and I think Okada hit the Stormbreaker, and he sat there on his ass for 30 seconds with his mouth agape, like
When
this
he
was
didn't get the pin.
like this was an NXT show, and he sat there like a statue.
Everybody got their photo. If you see the mouth agape photo of Okada, it's because everyone had ample opportunity.
Yes, he hit his drop kick a couple times. One of them was as they as he was going for the hidden blade, and yeah, then the Rainmaker. It was just awesome.
There was one drop kick attempt that I think is burned into my brain now, and it was from the angle that we were at. Okada was going for the drop kick, and Will hit the ropes and came back and pulled Okada into a smooth power bomb, then went straight down in the ground. And I think I yelled, "Oh my God," with how quickly and how smooth it looked. I don't think anyone could ever do it any better.
So, you know, by comparison, you and I talked about this. When it comes to live wrestling matches you've been in person to, where do those two matches rank on that list? And Matt B, who is in the chat, reminded me that I was at MJF and Danielson, which I would say overall is a better match because of how long they went, the way that they got there, the creativity. But I will say, my style of match is what we saw tonight. I like that style of match more than I like an Iron Man match, more than I like, you know, a gimmick match or a stipulation match. If you ask me what kind of wrestling match do I want to see, it's what we got tonight. So even though, like, if we're sort of doing the star ranking thing, I get it. If that match, you probably rank it a little bit higher, but you know, I've seen both Undertaker, Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches live. This was probably better than both of those, though watching those matches with 50, 60,000 people is a little bit different than, you know, watching it with 2,000 people. I watched the famous, or maybe even now infamous, Jericho and Benoit versus Austin and Triple H Raw match. I was there live for that match. There's a myriad of AEW matches that we've seen live just at the shows we've gone to.
Yeah, I was trying to think when you were talking about it, like, I think I've seen at least 5 between all the AEW pay-per-views that we've gone to, both the Anarchy and the Arenas, the Danielson MJF match, other matches in there. And it's just like, I'm almost embarrassed because, like, I can't recall these things. And it's like the embarrassment of riches of some of these matches that I've seen in my life. But I will always gravitate to a singles one-on-one match being my favorite type of 5-star match. If you want to give a 5 stars to an Anarchy in the Arena or like a multi-man match, more power to you.
I just don't remember enough about those matches when they're done, because you're just throwing so much stuff out there.
The coordination to pull that off with a multiple amount of people is one thing.
Yeah,
but
it's
to
pretty
pull
amazing.
off between just two people a flawless wrestling match is so incredibly, so much harder because all of it relies on you two. There's not parts that you can take a break and relax and do here or this there. I think because of my relationship with New Japan and my investment with New Japan rather than with AEW, which is more of a love-hate relationship, if I'm being honest. I think this one is probably gonna go down as my favorite Okada match that I've ever seen. Probably my favorite Will Ospreay match that I've ever seen.
Jay White and Okada at Madison Square Garden. How much of that match do you remember?
I remember a lot of it, and that's why I'm talking about it right now in the way that I am, because that is one of those matches that I need to rewatch because I remember it being very, very good. But I also remember being very tired and also annoyed about other factors of that show.
That was me. I was so exhausted by the end of that show just because of all the stuff we had done the night before and all the shows we had been to. That is the one thing about WrestleMania weekend and going to all those shows. If you don't get sleep, you're just like sleepwalking through this stuff, and it's so hard. And I get bummed out because I'm like, man, I want to watch it all. And then I go to an NXT show and I need to walk around the building because I'm ready to fall asleep in my seat, you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know what the next live show I'm going to see, but I'm really glad this is the last live show that I have on my docket.
Yeah, I know. So we also on Saturday, we got to hang out a little bit with New Japan announcer Walker Stewart. Now, I don't want to really talk about his story. You know, we did talk to him, but you know, at some point, I hope that he joins you, and I'm sure you can ask him all. But I mean, the fact that this dude is 21 years old and he's calling New Japan, and I thought he was really good at Wrestle Kingdom. I didn't get to hear this show, but he's working with Veda Scott on this show. I know Filthy was doing some as well. You know, there's the idea that this dude is that young and is calling this product, which is probably my favorite product, even though I don't get to watch as much of it as I do the two other companies. I just think it's fantastic. And, you know, you almost get a little protective of it because I look at this guy and I'm like, both of my sons are older than him, you know, but I also understand where they are in their lives. And so it helps me sort of realize where he may be in his life. Right. So, you know, I would just root for that guy. He's a good kid. He is a young man in a grown adult business with people who both want to support him and look out for him and others who do not. And he's going to have to figure out those, you know, those waters. So, but just wanted to say that, you know, it was really cool talking to him because it's, you know, think about him like he's, you know, what wrestling did he grow up? Oh, probably 2010s WWE, right? And that's the stuff that I don't even remember what happened. But it's fascinating.
I bet him and Scott Young could have a great trivia off about the random stuff that happened back then.
Well, you know who else? Scott E. Wrestling. Scott E. Wrestling is in his 20s.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure Walker and Scott have already spoken and done their show together.
Okay.
They are probably peas in a pod.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But anyways, I just wanted to give him a shout out.
The one thing I will say about Walker Stewart is I was so impressed with him. Just his ability to just take in all the information that I saw him taking in throughout the weekend.
I mean, we were with Meltzer too, and so it's just like a lot of information.
There are people our age that I don't think can process the information and handle things the way that he is handling them. And it is not an age thing. It is a competency thing, and it is an intelligence thing. And so I am so happy to see a fresh voice that can do the job and trailblaze. And that's kind of what I called him. It's like, you're kind of a trailblazer. You're not like a one in a million. You're kind of the first. And there are going to be a lot of people following you who grew up and learned how to do this as part of the generational thing, rather than like, oh wow, you're so young. I'm like, no, this is technology, and this is the advancement and a generational thing that a lot more people a lot younger are going to have these opportunities, and I'm not necessarily sure they're going to be as good as Walker when they get the chance.
Yeah, and announcing historically is sort of like an older person's game, because you just once you find that voice is so familiar with the audience, it just sort of grows with the voice. Like, think of how long Jim Ross was the voice, and he's still doing it, though he's not able to do it as well or as much anymore. Tony Schiavone just got the lead job again, and I don't think he's good at all, but he's trusted to lead the broadcast. I don't exactly know how old Excalibur is, but he's probably
Around our age, maybe
that's
late 30s, early 40s.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah.
Taz is older. He's his own son is wrestling. That's how old Taz is. Booker T in WWE. I guess Vic Joseph looks young. I don't know how young he is.
Kevin Patrick, Vic Joseph.
Yeah, those guys are
20s.
the younger guys, but Michael Cole, who it's funny when Walker was saying how that's like the voice of his generation, is Michael Cole's like, oh yeah, like that would be the voice of your generation.
Voice of many generations.
Yeah. So anyways, but no, that was fun. So blast to talk about it.
It was a good weekend for New Japan.
I
thought they had a mission statement for 2024 that is decidedly different than what they've been doing up to this point.
Yep. And those New Beginning shows, I don't know that I'll watch every show front to back like you, but there's some matches to cherry pick out of those shows that I'm definitely super interested to watch. So,
and with that app, you can just pick up a match and watch the one you're looking for and just move on with your day.
And you will be covering all of these shows in 2024. So I'm hoping for you and for Steven that these shows are great, so that you guys will have a lot of fun to talk about.
I just love talking New Japan with Steven. He's so much fun, and we have fun with the audience and the whole thing. We do the spiel at the beginning with the likes, the subscribes, and share the show and talk about it. And I think people do. And it warms my heart, and I like that people like our conversations about New Japan Pro Wrestling. We don't want to shit on the product. We don't want to shit on the wrestlers. We don't want to shit on anything. We want to talk about the things that are good and workshop the things that are bad. And it's fun.
And somebody recognized you from that show today. Yeah. That was kind of cool. So yeah, you guys, I think when
speaking of strong style, I guess we're talking about it.
Yeah, when the show is good, and you got, you had made a comment to me earlier today. You're like, well, I'm not a journalist. I'm just doing this as a passion. But New Japan is your beat. That's how you treat it. Yeah. You know the product up and down, and you know the stories up and down. So while you don't, no podcaster is really a journalist, but the way that you treat the product is how somebody who is doing a weekly New Japan show should treat the product, and probably even more, because I have to watch all these things, and I'm like, I don't think I'm getting to Collision this weekend. Like, I just can't see how I can get there, and I feel bad about it. But at the end of the day, somebody else will have watched enough, and I will have known enough to talk about it competently. But I'm like, oh God, like I hate getting behind, but oh well. When you have so much product these days, it's so hard.
I always love the breathless whenever I see Dave. Like, have you seen this match? I'm like, yeah. How was it? I'm like, it's good. You should make a point to see it.
Yeah, no, it's good. All right, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the people who are hanging out with us so late as well. Late for us, maybe early for some other people, but so this will be this was a good thing. We didn't even talk about doing it until the Moxley match, and I was like, okay, maybe we're probably gonna have to possibly talk about this show. But no, I appreciate you doing this, and good luck with your Thursday show. And like I said, Mel and Sam, Power Bombshells 100, and then I will be kicking off the new history show, which is basically the re-debut of Observe This, which I tried to kick off a few years ago, and I was like, how does this separate from anything else I'm doing? But now I figured it out. Observe This is back. So, all right, for Jeremy, I am Double G. Oh, well, we have one more comment here. Here you go. This is for you. I didn't
We're
run
gonna
into you.
talk on Thursday.
I didn't run into you, Jeremy, but Battle in the Valley, it was really good. I had a blast. Definitely my favorite of the three. And last year's had a lot going for it. That's from the Flaming Shark directly.
Hello,
to
Flaming Shark. Thank you for stopping in. We're gonna talk more on Thursday.
All right. For Jeremy, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.